those of you who know John Held from the biology department, I visited and had lunch yesterday in Black River Falls with he and his wife. He's doing well. He has good days and bad days. For those of you who don't know, he has pancreatic cancer. He's now going on 35 years of still here. So good days and bad days, but I told him I was coming and he said to tell those of you who know him, hello, and doing the best he can.
I think most of you know Ace Stadhouse. Ace, Sally visited with Jeanette this past week, and Ace is in a, could you say a nursing home in Viroqua. And so he's not doing well, but he's doing the best he can, and Jeanette is doing the best she can. But it's been very difficult because she'd like to get him a little closer to La Crosse, and that's not happening right now. But anyway, he is in Viroqua, and he has dementia, Alzheimer's, and he is not really that much. He's having difficulties knowing who you are, so if you go to visit him, chances are he will not recognize you.
Any other announcements from the group? Okay, well, let's get into the program. First, we have a few special thanks that we'd like to pass along, because this is a special and historic day, actually, for UW La Crosse, and we're excited to be a part of that. And Sandy gave me a whole long list of folks to thank here, so just bear with me for a minute. Special thanks to Laura and Paul from Special Collections for their help with some of the historic information that we wanted today. Thanks to Lisa Weston from Res Life. Where's Lisa? I saw her over here. She's been a great assist to Sandy in planning the day out. Thanks to Brad and James from University Communications. I know Brad is in the back of the room. James had to leave. Michael is here as well. He's our photographer. So thanks to them for doing some of the write-up for us. I'd also like to thank Sandy Sieber. Sandy is the one who coordinates this for us every month and does a wonderful job communicating. So thank you, Sandy. Before we get into the reason why you're here, for the Emeriti faculty, we wanted to ask, let's see, who's Jim and Laura from IT, well, ATS. IT. Okay. They change their names more frequently than that. So just a quick update on the email system for the Emeriti faculty and the changes that have happened over the summer and hopefully how to deal with some of those.
Thanks. I think this is the first time I've actually had a chance to come to this breakfast. And when I look around the room, I really don't see Emeriti and retirees. I look at friends. And I have gray hair as well, so a lot of great people here I've seen over the years. I just want to thanks Greg for giving the chance to say a few words about email. It's been a challenge for us, to say the least. It was nothing what we really expected. And Joe knows this story as well, that UW System wanted our campus to move to Office 365. It was not on our radar, and typically you deploy that in a year, and so we had about 3 months. So that was a little bit of a challenge for us. There are some background things that I want to make sure you're aware of. It wasn't the ideal situation, and as soon as they announced it, I did think, and Laura will introduce in a second, we thought, how is this going to affect retirees in Emeriti? Because after 30 or 40 years of service, it'd be pretty nice to be having an email account. Other campuses will say no. Once you are separated from the university, you typically don't have an email account, but we really wanted to be an advocate, and some of you, I'm an alum, so I know what it's like to go through the dedication of service. We want to make sure we had that. Some things happened that the reason why you didn't keep the email you had in the past was two things. One is there's a certain number of licenses that Microsoft gave us, and they did not extend the 550 licenses for our retirees and Emeriti people who are separate from the university. So that was a disadvantage for us. The other thing we found out, which was interesting, is that because that account still could be part of the university, is part of open records. So all the emails that you've sent as an employee would be eligible to be called up If someone wanted to see what Janie Spencer said, or Troy, whatever the case might be, or Dick Koehler, you have a few emails you might want to take back, right, Dick? All of them. That is good. So that's something kind of came to light that you're eligible. And the other thing is we found that some Emeriti's and retirees still use that email account for consulting and business. Well, when you think about all those emails can be brought forward, and that's got to be kind of an issue. So what we did, we created this Eagle account, and what we really want to do is assure you is that it isn't a gold watch. We wish we could extend that to you, but we really want to make sure you know that it's the best we could do in the situation, but we're not going to separate our services to each of you. What we really want to be able to do is help you with your questions. Come to the Eagle Help Desk, and we'll do the best we can with your email. I know, Greg, you've been in a number of times asking questions. And there was a quote that I came by just this morning, and I thought it was kind of apropos when we talk about what emails say. It says, dance like no one is watching, but email like it one day may be read aloud in a deposition. Which I thought was very apropos. So we really here want to make sure that we understand the plight you're in. If you have any questions on how you use your email, please come to Help Desk, call us. And I just want to introduce Laura Anderson. She's our new Help Desk coordinator. You can stand up, Laura. Come on, so you can see where you are. And Laura and I have talked about this. What we'd like to do is offer some extended workshops for each of you. And so we'll work through the group here some topics like how to use your laptop better, how to use Windows 10. And the best thing, the cost to have those is going to be what, Bill? How much is it going to cost to do those? Oh, nothing. This is our gift back to all your years of dedicated service to the university. We're very honored to be able to offer this. So we'll be offering these throughout the semester. Pick a nice time that you can all attend. And if you have specific questions, email them to us. We'll develop some curriculum and help you out with your computing needs. So thank you, Greg. I'd like to give you a round of applause for your dedication.
Thank you, Jim. As I'm standing over there, I realized I failed to introduce myself. I'm used to the Emeriti folks knowing who I am, but we have a lot of students in the room as well. My name is Greg Reichert. I'm Vice Chancellor for University Advancement and President of the UWL Foundation, which means one day as alumni of this great institution, you hope I'm calling on you, because that means I'm a fundraiser. And if I'm calling on you, that means you're doing well. So just remember my name, and when I call you one day, please take the phone call, okay? All right, well, now we're going to turn the floor over. Raise your hand, students. How many students do we have in here? Thank you for coming. Residence Life staff, current Residence Life staff, raise your hand. And what is your official title, Jackie? Director of Residence Life? All right. Jackie just joined us this summer, right? Or maybe early this July. I came from Indiana, but previously spent a lot of time in Oshkosh. We do hold that against her. But she corrected her ways and has landed in God's country, so we're glad to have Jackie here. But I'm going to turn the floor over to somebody who probably doesn't need an introduction. Dr. Nick was here for about 20 years as Director of Residence Life. Was that your title the whole time, Dr. Nick?
Grand Poobah.
A few others we can't mention in mixed crowd, but Dr. Nick retired this summer, but agreed to be the MC for us for this breakfast, and so he's gonna take the program on. And I asked him how retirement's going, and he said it's going great. The only thing he misses are the 2 a.m. phone calls about an issue in the residence hall. So URAs, feel free to call Dr. Nick and keep him in the loop because he misses that. So with that, Nicholas.
Forget the 2 a.m. phone calls. I'll probably be up though. As one gets older, bathroom seems to call. So, good morning. It is a pleasure to be here. And I did have the privilege of serving as the second director of residence life following the incomparable Dick Koehler. 19 and a half years. Tomorrow is move-in. Well, I'll miss some of the stuff, the excitement in the students' faces and the anxiousness on parents' faces, that will be missed. But there are many things that I have not missed. Parent issues, student concerns, personnel issues, budget, occupancy, politics, meetings. So, those are some things that I have not missed. So, I thought they were retreats and they were just fun times. I don't classify those as meetings, Paula. So, okay. I have also been told, again, reminded that move-in is tomorrow. If you have nothing to do Friday or Saturday, we have 3,500 plus residents moving in. Feel free to come and participate, lug up. We've reserved some rooms on the 4th floor so you can get your cardio facility or activity in that day. So,
we'll get you a free t-shirt.
Yes, oh yes, don't forget the free t-shirts. I was also told that when I left, I was still in charge of the weather. So I have utilized all my powers and contacts and all the favors that I can muster. And Friday and Saturday will be excellent move-in days. It's not going to be too hot. It's not going to rain. And so if you're interested in joining the students and moving in, come see me for details as we welcome our class of 2020. In addition to the primary function of being the director of residence life, I also had the privilege of teaching at the university. I taught a section of UWL 100 for a number of years, and I was graduate faculty in the Student Affairs Administration program for 19 years, teaching the capstone class and the college student development theory class. And if memory serves correctly, when Chancellor Gao came to campus, he indicated that he would welcome to come to a class. And if I'm not mistaken, I know this, I invited him to come to our class and speak, and I believe I was the first, my class was the first one you came and presented to the students.
Correct.
Okay, good deal. In addition to those teaching duties, I served on admissions coordinator, program review, and serving and chairing many theses and creative projects. We're here today to dedicate the naming of 3 rooms within Eagle Hall. Eagle Hall is a residence hall that opened in the fall of 2011, and it seems like just yesterday we opened, but it was actually 5 years ago. This hall that was designed to offset the loss of housing space when Trowbridge and Baird Hall were razed, and it was designed to hold 500 students. Due to our occupancy demand, we now house over 740 students in these 2 residence halls. This hall, just like any other of our 11 residence halls, in accordance with the ORL mission statement, are all living learning environments. For those of you who may not know, the mission statement reads, the University of Wisconsin-La Crosse Residence Life Program is an integral component to the university's educational mission. We provide reasonably priced and well-maintained living learning environments which are designed to foster learning, community, personal growth, responsibility, respect, leadership, and citizenship. In keeping in mind that this mission statement, as we constructed this building, we incorporated 2 classrooms and this programming space in here to enhance the educational mission of the university. In the summer of 2009, 3 buildings were raised to make room for Centennial Hall. All 3 were residence halls named after the 4 individuals we are here to discuss today. Wilder Hall became the first campus residence hall in 1951. It was transformed from a residence hall to an administration building in the early 1960s. Trowbridge and Baird halls opened in 1959 and 63, respectively, as women's residence halls, remained as residence halls until their deconstruction. All three buildings, as you will hear, were named after four outstanding early educators on the La Crosse faculty. We weren't part of the university system during that time. Over there, as you came in, you will find pictures of the three halls, plus Reuter Hall, which were raised in the early 2000s. And we have a brick representing each of those residence halls. Those are permanently on display in the Office of Residence Life in our main lobby. What I would like to do, it's my extreme pleasure to introduce three presenters who will reflect on the namesakes of these three buildings. First presentation is via a video is Dr. Mary Lou Thornburg, who will present on Beatrice and Betty Baird. Her bio is listed on the program that you have in front of you, so I'm not going to discuss that at this time. So, the video.
Good morning. I'm so sorry I cannot be with you this morning, but the spinal fusion surgery that I had in December is still healing, and my mobility is limited. I entered La Crosse State College in 1954 to attain my goal of teaching physical education. In my opinion, the program was the better of the two major programs in the state at that time. I lived in Emma Lou Wilder Hall and was very proud that the building was named in honor of one of the incredible women teaching in the department. You must remember now that my reflections are of those of more than 60 years ago. In the winter of that first year, I found my biggest challenge taking beginning swimming with Betty Little Baird. She was small in stature with a big voice that demanded your attention and compliance. She had a gleam in her eye that made one believe that her bark was much worse than her bite. I had always been afraid of deep water, so the course was a huge challenge. After 8 weeks, my fears diminished and my first hurdle was behind me. My next exposure to Little Baird was tumbling as a sophomore. This was another of my weaknesses, throwing my weight over my head in various body positions. Her patience and encouragement helped me through that, and I was required to transfer some of those skills using the diving board in another required aquatic course. My knees were constantly shaking every time I mounted the board, but the clear analysis and explanation of what I was to do gave me the courage to complete the task. Although Miss Baird was all business in class, she was personable and friendly outside of class. I was impressed by her abilities to get me to do things I never thought possible. As a junior, senior life-saving was a requirement that I remember enjoying, until someone grabbed me from behind in a death grip for the competency test. The confidence she instilled in me allowed me to conquer another hurdle. As a senior, I elected to take both the water safety instructor course and synchronized swimming. My developing interest and skill in water activities, coupled with my admiration of Miss Baird's knowledge of how to get the most out of her students, motivated me to volunteer to work the lights for the Catalina Club shows. I fondly remember many inspirational conversations in her office about teaching and learning. Her sister Bea had quite a different personality. With a large frame, she towered over most of the women students and came across to students as very serious. She was the only woman among the department faculty with a doctorate, which impressed the students, but probably put an extra barrier in getting to know her. She taught us field hockey and basketball, two of my favorite activities, several times during the 4 years. Big Baird was my student teaching supervisor during my senior year, and I got to know her through conferences about teaching and student learning. We never knew when she might appear in the classroom or on the playground of the elementary school. She was analytical and provided clear and concise suggestions to improve my teaching. Dr. Baird also taught the organization and administration course taken as seniors. I was so grateful for that course when I started my career, teaching in high school in the fall of 1958. The course prepared me for anything I might encounter. I know I used my notebook about the class several times during those early years. Dr. Baird was involved in summer leadership camp experience for high school girls athletic associations, i.e. GAA, sponsored by the state professional organization, which was the Wisconsin Association for Health, Physical Education, and Recreation. I was asked to be a volunteer counselor at the camp and got to know her on a much more personal level through that experience. She was very active in professional organizations and inspired me for a lifetime of service in the profession at the state, district, and national level. She introduced me to officiating sports, and I spent more than 30 years officiating high school and college basketball, field hockey, lacrosse, and volleyball. Throughout my years at lacrosse, I envisioned my career to be in professional preparation program, which caused me to delve deeper into the philosophies and principles and teaching strategies used by my instructors. When I applied for graduate school, I sought Dr. Baird's advice. I considered a university in a glamorous state in the West or the Women's College of North Carolina. Dr. Baird told me that when you get a degree, it's less important than the faculty with whom you studied. That advice sent me to the Women's College for a master's degree and the University of Iowa for a PhD. I've never regretted that decision. I left Wisconsin in 1961, but did return when teaching at Iowa, when a new dorm on the La Crosse campus was named for Betty Baird in 1963. When I returned for my 50th reunion in 2008, I was disappointed to learn that the dormitories, named in honor of 3 exemplary women faculty members, had been demolished. It appeared there was no plan to honor them in some other way. In reviewing some of the history for this presentation, I discovered that Baird Hall was renamed for Betty and Beatrice Baird in 1990. I would have enthusiastically endorsed that change. Beatrice A. Baird was on the faculty at La Crosse from 1946 to 1974, and Betty J. Baird from 1947 to 1962, retiring early for health reasons. Both played a significant role in the development of the physical education program and were respected and loved by their students. I feel extremely fortunate to have had the privilege to be taught and inspired by each of these women. I'm delighted that the university is again recognizing the contributions of Emma Lou Wilder, Myrtle Trowbridge, Betty Baird, and Beatrice Baird at this time. They were all very instrumental in making this university what it was in the 1950s and what it is today. Thank you.
The next presentation will be by Dick Koehler, the first director of Residence Life. We'll talk briefly about the start of the Residence Life program in Myrtle Trowbridge Hall. Dick graduated from Colorado State College with a BA in Business Administration in 1960 and an MS in Elementary Administration in 1961. And he was in that role as the Director of Residence Life for 30 years. And it's my pleasure to introduce Dick. And for those of you who know Dick, I am reminding you, you have 5 to 7 minutes.
I was always popular on campus. Hit the bracket one day. I don't know if they still have the racket. This bracket still existed. Okay. I was the student enemy of the week. The week before it was a Cadillac because it was gas guzzling. And the week before that it was Kenny Linder, president of the university, chancellor. And when I became the student enemy of the week, I thought, I'm in good company. Kenny Linder, a Cadillac, you can't beat that. My harshest critic is here today, my wife. I was told once that You know you're old when, after you retire, the person that filled your position retires and you're invited to their retirement. Thank you, Nick. I really appreciate your retiring. I can't believe I'm 82 years old. Oh, let me see. Let me get into this. Trowbridge, obviously named for Myrtle Trowbridge. She taught history from 1918 to 1954. And I'd like to know if anybody here, and I know there's one person, but I wondered if there are any other people that actually had her as a teacher. Pat, you're alone. Pat Mertens, who worked in the Res Life office for a number of years, had her as a teacher. I thought, what can be more appropriate than having one of her students here?
Can you imagine having this guy as your boss?
I'm a teacher.
I know, but you were my boss for a
I
while.
taught you, never mind.
Yeah, we won't get into that. Yes, I was really fortunate to have had Myrtle Trowbridge, Betty Baird, Beatrice Baird, and Emily Wilder as professors when I was a student. So I'm like Dick, I'm an antique. And, but Myrtle Trowbridge, I had her for European civilization at 1:30 in the afternoon. I remember it specifically. And Myrtle Trowbridge was one of those professors that demanded a lot from her students, including how we dressed when we came to class. And so not only, of course, back in the 50s, the women all wore skirts or dresses to class anyway, and the boys were appropriately dressed in their slacks and shirts. And so at the beginning of our semester, she would say, now, gentlemen, I want you to wear ties to this class. You're professionals, you're going to be professionals, so you wear ties to this class. Women, do not wear red. Red is a passionate color. So needless to say, none of us ever wore red to Myrtle Trowbridge's class. And one of my friends, Joanne Isabella, had a bright red, or bright, not red, bright blue sweater on one day. And Myrtle Trowbridge looked at her and said, Miss Isabella, I want you to wear that sweater to this class every day. It's beautiful. And but as a professor, as a teacher, she was just wonderful. She traveled all over the world. She brought all those stories and pictures and everything to class. And she made it so interesting. I didn't know that I would enjoy European civilization, but I really did. And Greg, I don't know if you ever knew her or not when, you did not, okay. Greg is a history professor at UWL for many years. And, but she was a wonderful teacher. If I can make a comment about Betty Baird, I just identified with Mary Lou's comments. I was reliving everything she said. And I too was not a diver. And I remember in Betty Baird's class, when we had to take her class, she would say, there is only one way off that board. And so needless to say, we did it, we survived. But, and Miss Wilder, I had met her when I was a senior in high school in Wisconsin Rapids. She had come for college night, and I was so impressed with her. And she was just great, and I stayed in touch with her all the years. In fact, after she retired, I visited her in Colorado for a few days. And when we were driving into town, in Durango, Colorado, I said to my friend Noreen Smith,
I said, oh, there she is. She's walking down the street. And so we stopped her, and she said, oh, come to the house, come to the house. And she said, do you know, I was just coming from the Chamber of Commerce meeting, and did you see that those tennis courts that were built up on the edge of town? And now when you go out the other edge of town, there's a swimming pool, and we've been working on those things all summer long, all year long. And so those were some of her accomplishments that she was I'm taking up your time.
He made a mic.
That she was working on, but it was just great. The wonderful professors, and I'm so glad this is being done in honor of those 4 women. Thank you, Dave.
I can tell you, I can relate. Thank you, Pat, for giving us, you know, it's kind of neat to have somebody that actually was in the class with the situation with Myrtle Trowbridge. One of the things is I read some of the materials on her that I could relate to. She would hire some of her students that were financially not well off. And one of the things that she did every day was they had cocktails in the afternoon at 2 o'clock. I mean, this is not ginger ale, this was booze. And the one that wrote about it, he was a veteran too, and he said, boy, I sure like those cocktails in the middle of the afternoon. Okay, let me see where I am here. Apparently, one of the other things that I found interesting was that this is a description. Frankness was never better personified than in the person of Miss Trowbridge. This is not a course in composition, and therefore I do not give much credit for your flowery words and verbose expressions. What I want in an examination is a plain statement of facts. Miss Trowbridge loathed writing so much and saying so little, as she would express it. She didn't believe in bullshit, and that's, you know, I mean, she would have been, I think I could have had a lot of fun with her. And I too am pleased that this honor is being bestowed upon her. Well deserved. Going into, they asked me too, and my wife just gave me a 2-minute, about how I ended up to be the director of residence life. I affectionately called it I was the director of wildlife management for 30 years at the campus. I got a call from Sam Gates. This was in 1966. Dr. Gates was the president of the university, and it did help to know people. And so he asked me if I was interested in becoming an assistant to Ed Carlson, who was the vice president for business, and I said, I don't know anything about that. He said, well, come on up and interview for the job, which I did. And I came to the campus, met Ed, we got along well, left the campus. I was told, you gotta come back in a month and a half, we're hiring you. I came back about 6 weeks later, and Ed Carlson was gone. Ed Carlson was the vice president over at Gunderson Lutheran, and I didn't have any boss. And I said to Dr. Gates, I said, I don't have anybody, just make yourself at home, get around there. We were opening up all these halls and everything. Just start walking around, meeting people, and so on and so forth. Well, the year 1966 to 67, one of the things that happened to me is I became the business manager for the res halls. And also I was in charge of off-campus housing, which we had to go and inspect. And so in 1967, the summer of 1967, Dr. Hogue asked me to come into his office, and he was in the housing office. And he said to me, I've just been promoted to the dean of students, and I'm reorganizing the whole program. And I want to do the co-ed and the men's housing and everything, and under one office, and that will be the student affairs, and I will be in charge of that. He said, here, and he hands me, he says, this is a flow chart. And I looked at it, and he said, what do you think? I looked at that flow chart, and I thought, oh my God, this is off the wall. I'm glad I'm not involved in this. He says, you think you can handle it? I said, pardon me? He says, do you think you can handle it? I said, no, I can't handle it. I've never lived in a dormant, residence hall. Okay. So, and he said, that's all right. We'll just surround you with good people. It won't be a problem. I said, it won't be a problem. I never lived in a hall. I know anything about halls. Well, that's how I became the Director of Wildlife Management. Thank you for your kind attention. It's been fun being here this morning, and I enjoyed the breakfast, and Mick, I'm still upset with you.
You didn't have to retire, Dick.
Retire? I thought it was retarded.
No. Okay. Finally, Ms. Linda Thompson will speak about Emma Lou Wilder. Linda graduated from UWL with a BS and an MS in physical education classes of 1969 and 70 respectively. Did you live in a residence hall on campus? All right, good. She attended postgraduate classes in adaptive physical education at UWL and completed her MSc in guidance and counseling at that school up north that Jackie worked at, Oshkosh, in 1990. Linda?
Hi. I'm so pleased to be involved in the celebration of these wonderful women. Miss Emma Lou Wilder is a woman whose history is larger than life. And when I got a call to speak with this group for a few minutes about her, I had to go back to my master's thesis, which I wrote in 1970, a while ago. And it was called Emma Lou Wilder, She Came to Teach. I was so overwhelmed with rereading the thesis. I hadn't looked at it for a while. And I went through many of the letters that I received from Emma Lou Wilder, and it brought back a lot of fond memories. So I'd just like to fill you in a little bit on her background and her history. The University of Wisconsin-La Crosse is widely recognized as one of the top physical education schools in the nation. Emma Lou Wilder played a major role in helping the school develop that status. Ms. Wilder was the Associate Director of Physical Education from 1946 to 1957, and she was a faculty member here from 1921 to 1957. She was born in 1891 in Woodstock, Vermont. She taught in Vermont for a while, then she went to Boston, where she attended the University of Pittsburgh, and she received her degree in physical education. She also spent several summers working toward and receiving her master's degree from Harvard. When she arrived at the then La Crosse Normal School in 1921, her job was to teach women's physical education. In 23, she founded the Women's Athletic Association to promote an intramural program. She was elected president of the newly formed Wisconsin Physical Education Association in 1928, and she also led the school to introducing a major field of study in recreation. Ms. Wilder was one of the organizers of what became the La Crosse State Teachers College Foundation for giving scholarships and awards. According to one of her colleagues, Ms. Lenore Wilson, who was a kindergarten teacher at campus school, she was respected throughout the state and the nation, particularly with regard to placement. Ms. Wilder set up some pretty difficult standards for the whole state to live up to. Another colleague, Mr. Leon Miller, said that there wasn't a superintendent who didn't rely almost entirely on her judgment as to whether a particular gal would fit into a particular situation. I don't think there was ever anyone in the department, either men's or women's, who had as broad a base of confidence in assessing the potentialities of prospective teachers. She was also awarded membership in the Mid-Century White House Conference. She received a 1957 Life Membership Award from the Wisconsin Association of Health, Physical Education, and Recreation. The relationship Ms. Wilder shared with her students was professional, yet warm, friendly, and considerate. Her excellent rapport was attributed to her sympathetic, open, and honest ways. Many students stood in awe of her with respect and admiration for her and her way of life. She never demanded things of her students which she could not do herself. Her classes were always started on time and lasted the full duration. They were well organized and interesting. She encouraged self-evaluation and was very democratic. As one student stated, not rain, nor snow, nor sleet, nor hail, nor minus 10 degrees would stop the class. I remember having to walk in winter over the bridge to Pettibone Park to ice skate, ski, and snowshoe. Miss Wilder would be a speck in the distance behind us, and before long she would be passing us. Her prescribed method of transportation to any activity was run a block and walk a block. As a strong advocate of physical health and fitness, she set the example. When it became known that the new girls' dormitory, it was called dormitories then, I didn't know they changed the rest at all. When a new girls' dormitory was to be constructed on campus, Miss Wilder's legion of friends and former students besieged the administration with requests to name the hall after her. On November 28th of 1949, the Board of Regents passed a resolution to name the new dormitory Emmylou Wilder Hall. And this resolution said in part, whereas physical education is a special field of teacher education at La Crosse State Teachers College, whereas Emmylou Wilder has served with distinction in the physical education division at La Crosse for 28 years, and whereas these years she had won to a remarkable degree the confidence and affection of the students of her division, therefore be it resolved that in recognition of her outstanding service, the new Women's Resident Hall, now being erected at La Crosse, will be known as Emmylou Wilder Hall. Well, Miss Wilder described her feelings when the first women's dorm was named after her. She said, "I was quite overcome. I never realized I had so many friends in high places." After her retirement, she moved to the Rocky Mountain community of Ouray, Colorado, where she was active in the Chamber of Commerce, Women's Club, and the American Association of University Women. In '73, Miss Wilder was named the Distinguished Citizen of the Year by the Ouray Elks Club. And in 1976, the Chamber of Commerce named her Woman of the Year. My husband and I had the pleasure of meeting Miss Wilder in Ouray in the summer of 1972. She gave us a tour of her lovely home with a view of a mountain peak from every window. She talked about that often. Following a tour of the city, where we were interrupted several times by acquaintances and friends, we enjoyed a wonderful lunch and conversation. As I was nearing the completion of my master's thesis, I received a letter from California, from a woman by the name of Miss Betty White Huff, who had been traveling and had just received my request for information. She was a colleague and office mate of Miss Wilder's, and I would just like to read you a section of that letter because I think it's a wonderful summation of Miss Wilder. She said, "Miss Wilder was one of the most outstanding persons I have been privileged to know. Her mastery of her field, her great stamina, and her deep interest in young people made her perfect for her position. I often wondered if the students were aware of the many hours she spent preparing them so they would be successful in the field, and the endless amount of time she devoted to trying to find just the right position to ensure their success. She always gave of herself beyond what is normally expected in order to help students. Along with her professional duties, she also had time to live a full social life. She was a gracious hostess and entertained often. Her parties were always well attended, for she was one of the best cooks on the faculty. She had a keen sense of humor and was able to roll with the punches, even when others were ready to give up. She was a loyal friend, always ready to come to one's side when needed. I have always felt that being able to know Emmylou Wilder was one of the real blessings in my life. To me, Emmylou Wilder was La Crosse State." Miss Wilder died on July 30th, 1980 in Ouray at the age of 89.
Thank you, Linda, Dick, and Pat. for your perspectives and insights. When Eagle Hall was built, in keeping with the learning part of the mission statement, we did provide 2 classrooms and this programming space. On a side note, for you trivia people, the occupancy for this room is 499. If we said 500 people would be down here, different building codes would go into place, and it would have cost us a tremendous amount more dollars. In addition, this space was an add-on. To keep costs low, we didn't include this, but because of the construction climate at the time, we were able to provide this, in my opinion, needed space. We weren't in this building long. When we occupied this building in 2011, the central staff was meeting at one time, and we had some informal conversations going on, and we decided that we needed to name these rooms as opposed to be Classroom A, Classroom B, or the multi-purpose programming gathering space. So returning to our mission statement, and out of respect and acknowledgement of the learning that occurs in our residence halls, and in being respectful for the namesakes, we internally and informally named the rooms Baird, Trowbridge, and Wilder. And this was the Wilder space. I am pleased that recently, along with many of you, that the decision has been made to recognize and honor these 4 individuals with the formal naming rights of these important living learning spaces. It's my pleasure to call Greg back to the podium to conduct the formal naming process.
Thank you, Dr. Nick, and thank you all presenters for sharing that background for us. A couple announcements before I turn it over to Joe for the actual process here. The students who are in the room are more than happy to give tours of the hall if you would like after breakfast is over, so please, where would you like them to meet you? Okay, so meet in the back of the room if you're interested in getting a tour of the hall. Also, a reminder that next month's program, October 6th, we'll have Joe Heim here, and I think you can probably guess why Joe Heim is going to be here, because November is going to be a very interesting month on the political scene. So, yes, I can't follow that. So, with that, remember October 6th, remember the tour, and we'll let Joe here have the floor now for the formal presentation.
Thank you, Greg. Oh, you're very kind, very kind. It's great to have, we've got 3 generations of residence life directors. So welcome to Jackie. Nick, where did you go over there? I came up to him and I just, move-in day is tomorrow, and you gonna come in? I don't know. You know, every time I've done move-in day, Nick's there. And I think that he, wants to kind of keep out of our way, maybe. And he said, "No, I won't." And I said, "What are you going to do?" He said, "Oh, things that normal people do on Labor Day weekend." And I thought, yeah, so you deserve that. And hope you are successful in that. But it's got to be. I mean, I also said, probably the first time in your adult life you're not doing a move-in, so, and Dick, it's always a pleasure to see you. And I was reflecting, knowing a little bit about the history, coming in '67 and '66, wow, a lot of new halls. I mean, these buildings, and I know this because I walk around the campus, and I look and I go, what are we gonna do? They were all built about the same time, and there were over 50 years coming, and we need to modernize and replace, and we are doing a little bit of that, but so great to see you back as well. And then to hear about the history and people that knew these wonderful members of the UWL faculty is really special. And I will say that when I got here in '07, these buildings were still up, and to be honest with you, I sort of liked romantically the volleyball area out there. I thought that was kind of cool to look out my window from the lofty chancellor's office and see students playing sand volleyball, and I was a little sad when that couldn't be anymore. But obviously we've got a fantastic academic building over there. But I did get into Wilder, Baird, and Trowbridge in my early time pretty regularly, and Wilder was an office building at that point, and I remember ROTC, I think counseling and testing, TRIO programs, Upward Bound. Res Life was over there. I'm just curious, anybody that did work in Wilder in those offices? So yeah, we've got some people, so yeah. And Baird was known as the International Hall because there were a lot of international students living there, and so I used to go enjoy visiting with them. And Trowbridge, the final day of Trowbridge, there was a ceremony, and as I recall, it was in the late morning, kind of approaching noon, and I wanted to get over there and just be a part of that. And one of the students pulled me aside and said, my roommate is up there still sleeping, and it would be really fun if you just go up and knock on the door and see what happens. So that was pretty cool to do that and get the surprise. Chancellor, come on, are you getting up? We got to get out of here. This is it. I will say one of the great thrills of my job is alumni come back and we go out and walk around, and sometimes somebody will say, oh yeah, I lived right there in whatever hall, and let's go in, and we'll just go up to the room and knock, and the students are great. I mean, I think they get a big kick out of the history that, you're in a room that somebody had, and another time, and forgive me if I get a little nostalgic, but I mean, this is the moment to do this. I was helping on move-in day in Laux, and a dad and a son, and the son, we got him in his room, and then the dad said, my room was just down below here 25, I don't know how many years ago. So that's really a nice thing. And if you don't know, and I think you all do know, Res Life is really one of the big factors in why this university is so successful. I mean, it really provides a great learning environment, and frankly, if you do the math, the students are in the res hall probably more than any other place, including the classroom on the campus. So it is vitally important, and we've been had great leadership. And Jackie, the bar's set high, so I don't want to scare you there. But and our people get recognized. And yesterday, I was thrilled at my opening remarks to introduce the Academic Staff Excellence Award winner, and we've got several hundred academic staff, so the one who's the best is sitting right here in the room here, Troy Richter, Assistant Director of Red Light. Congratulations. We're proud of that. And I said yesterday, I'll say again, I was talking to Troy upstairs once, and he's like, look at this photo, and he's got a better photo with President Obama than I do. And I got the, kind of the official, and I said, how did you get this? He said, well, they, wanted the people who really did the work there to get some time with the man. And then, can I tell this other story? I didn't tell it yesterday, but the Secret Service, they came and they needed somewhere to stay, and they stayed here. And how many people was that? About 70, and this is like you get a phone call and they're coming tomorrow. I mean, they don't mess around with this thing. And so you all in Res Life really did a great job of accommodating them. And at the end of it, Troy told me, they said, like, we're going to need you to come up to the room for some debriefing on this. So he goes up there, and it's like, have a beer. They were, it was all over, which is so nice. And yeah, so I'm just so, as you can tell, very proud of what we have in Res Life, and hope that we just keep going strong, and I know we will. And boy, there's a lot of competition. I was just over at the Aguilera new apartments, and Marvin Wanders is a great developer and one, really does it right. But I said, boy, we got to, now keep up with the rest of the world. So this building we certainly have, and we look forward to doing a lot more. All right, so I probably said too much, but it seemed like a good moment to do that. Now I'm going to have the honor of unveiling the plaques that will be mounted on the walls to honor Baird, Wilder, and Trowbridge. And I don't know which one. This is like behind door number 1. Okay. All right, and the media people, this is the money shot here, as they say. So I know, yeah, they told me, wait till they get there. So here we go, and I don't want to muck this up, but maybe I'll give you the microphone. All right, here is the plaque for Lou Wilder.
Take them off. Yeah.
And here we are for Baird Hall, Beatrice and Betty Baird.
And Jeff, before you flip the last one, Jeff wanted me to tell the story. You saw the video from Lou Thornburg. She's a Emeriti faculty member from Bridgewater State up in Massachusetts. Well, she thought so much of the Baird sisters that she established a scholarship here at UWL in their name as part of our scholarship campaign. So that there's now an endowed scholarship in honor of both those sisters. So that was a nice gift. So.
And then, of course, this would be Myrtle Trowbridge. Well, wow. Thank you for being a part of history. This is pretty cool, isn't it? And I hope that you'll come up and read these fine plaques and also look at the photos back there and the bricks, because it's really what it's all about as we go into our 100 and, boy, where are we now? You should never do math in front of 107th, yeah, 107th year. And I don't know about you all, but oh boy, that feels special to be a part of something that's been going that long and will keep going for hundreds more years. And we'll always remember these great people in this day. So thank you again for coming, and we can do photos and things, and great to see everybody.